The siege of Seringapatam was the final confrontation between the British East India Company and the Kingdom of Mysore. The British achieved a decisive victory after breaching the walls of the fortress at Seringapatam and storming the citadel. Tipu Sultan was killed in the action. Following his death, the East India Company continued to expand its control over India. It looted treasures after the defeat of Tipu Sultan and created the Indian Civil Service, which marked a shift from trade to empire and increased state control of the company. What happens when a corporation colonizes a country? In the year of 1577, the intrepid mariner Francis Drake embarked from the shores of England aboard the storied vessel, the Golden Hind. His quest was one of daring and ambition to raid the Spanish dominions in the New World, seeking the lustrous allure of gold and silver. Drake's voyage bore fruit, and with his ship laden with treasures, he ventured into the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean in 1579, a realm then charted only by Iberian navigators. The winds of fortune steered Drake to the fabled East Indies, where the fragrant Moluccas, also known as the Spice Islands, awaited. There, he encountered Sultan Babola. Through shrewd negotiation, Drake traded linen, gold, and silver for a bounty of aromatic spices, such as cloves and nutmeg, enriching his cargo. Upon his triumphant return to England in 1580, Drake was hailed as a national hero. His epic journey not only swelled England's treasury, but also bestowed upon its investors a staggering return of some 5,000%. This marked the dawn of a pivotal chapter in England's eastern ventures during the waning years of the 16th century. In the wake of the Spanish Armada's defeat in 1588, a remarkable opportunity unfolded for English adventurers. The spoils of captured Spanish and Portuguese vessels, laden with precious cargoes, fueled their ambitions to explore the far reaches of the globe in pursuit of wealth. London merchants, recognizing the strategic significance of the Indian Ocean, petitioned Queen Elizabeth for permission to embark on a daring voyage. Their mission? To strike a resounding blow against the entrenched Spanish and Portuguese monopoly over trade in the East. Queen Elizabeth granted her assent, and in 1591, James Lancaster set sail aboard the Bonaventure, accompanied by 2 other ships funded by the Levant Company. Their audacious journey took them from England, around the treacherous Cape of Good Hope, and into the vast expanse of the Arabian Sea. This intrepid expedition marked a historic milestone. It became the first English venture to reach India by this sea route. Navigating further, they rounded Cape Comorin and ventured into the Malay Peninsula, where they seized Spanish and Portuguese vessels, reaping the rewards of their daring exploits. In 1594, laden with both riches and tales of adventure, they returned triumphantly to the shores of England. This voyage not only expanded England's horizons, but also left an indelible mark on the annals of maritime history. In the year 1599, a notable assembly of merchants and explorers convened to deliberate a momentous venture, an expedition to the East Indies sanctioned by a royal charter. Their discussions bore fruit, and exactly a year later, on December 31, 1600, they achieved their goal. Queen Elizabeth granted a charter to their newly formed corporation, the Governor and Company of Merchants of London, trading into the East Indies. This charter bestowed upon the company a monopoly over English trade, with all lands lying east of the Cape of Good Hope and west of the Straits of Magellan. For a span of 15 years, the company held exclusive rights, and any traders operating in those regions without the company's license risked forfeiture of their ships and cargo, with half going to the Crown and half to the company, and even imprisonment at the royal pleasure. This marked a pivotal chapter in England's maritime history as it set sail toward the riches and mysteries of the distant East. The inaugural charter of the East India Company heralded Thomas Smythe as its first governor, with a council of 24 directors, including the esteemed James Lancaster, forming the Court of Directors. It was under Sir James Lancaster's command that the company's maiden voyage set sail in 1601 aboard the Red Dragon. The following year, amidst the strategic waters of the Malacca Straits, Lancaster seized the opulent Portuguese carrack São Tomé, heavy with pepper and spices. This windfall empowered the crew to establish trading posts, one in Bantam on Java and another amidst the Spice Islands of the Moluccas, before their departure. Their return to England in 1603 coincided with the end of Queen Elizabeth's reign, but Lancaster's knighthood by King James was a testament to their successful journey. Despite initial challenges in the spice market due to the Dutch East India Company's dominance, the English persisted. Their first trading post in Bantam became a cornerstone for pepper imports, sustaining the company's trade for 2 decades. The Indian Ocean became a battleground for supremacy among English, Dutch, and Portuguese traders. A significant triumph for the company was the Battle of Swally in 1612, near Surat, which paved the way for English expansion into mainland India. In the year 1615, King James of England dispatched Sir Thomas Roe on a diplomatic sojourn to the court of Mughal Emperor Jahangir. Roe's mission was to forge a commercial treaty granting the East India Company unparalleled privileges to establish a foothold in Surat and beyond. In a gesture of goodwill, the company pledged to shower the emperor with European treasures and curiosities. The venture was met with resounding success. In the early years of its existence, the East India Company thrived on a curious blend of commerce and piracy. The Spice Islands, where European powers vied for supremacy, provided the backdrop for their initial profits. However, a pivotal moment in 1623 altered the company's trajectory. The Dutch attacked their factory located in the Moluccas, dealing a severe blow. This setback forced the company to abandon its Spice Islands endeavors and shift focus to a more stable source of income, India. What began as modest trading posts, often situated on less desirable land, such as islands or swamps near existing population centers, evolved into sprawling factory complexes. These factories buzzed with hundreds of workers, producing exotic goods destined for England. Simultaneously, they served as secure hubs for exporting English finished products to local merchants. The company's rise came at the expense of rival European powers. Their artful diplomacy, fueled by favors and well-placed bribes, outmaneuvered competitors. The French, too, expanded in the region, but the East India Company held its ground, leveraging every opportunity. Throughout the entire century, the company only resorted to force against the Mughals once, with terrible consequences. The Anglo-Mughal War was a complete loss, ending when the company effectively declared fealty to the Mughals to get their factories back. The East India Company's fortunes changed for the better in 1707 as India fell into anarchy with the death of the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. A series of large-scale rebellions and the collapse of the Mughal taxation system led to the effective independence of virtually all of the Mughals' previous fiefs and holdings. The company was able to take advantage of this chaos, slowly wresting direct control of the province of Bengal and fought numerous wars with the French in the Carnatic Wars for influence and control of the East Coast. The company's position in the Mughal court as it fell apart made it possible to sponsor different players on the continent as they individually contended with others, steadily amassing an ever larger position on the continent for themselves. During the 18th century, the company's primary source of profit in India shifted to the imposition of taxes within the territories it had conquered and controlled. The company's trading posts transformed into fortified centers and administrative nodes, overseeing extensive networks of tax collectors that burgeoned into vast urban areas. The region, once the global hub for textile production in the 17th century, was compelled to import textiles manufactured in Britain. The immense wealth, encompassing statues, jewels, and other treasures, was transferred from the palaces of Bengal to the estates in the English countryside. The company invested heavily in professional military forces and paid to use regiments of British Army regulars. In 1763, the EIC had 6,680 troops in Bengal alone, a figure which rocketed to 130,000 by 1823. The majority of troops were recruited from the Indian peasantry. This vast army dwarfed the EIC's civilian employees, who numbered around 3,500 in 1830. The EIC built fortresses, had a navy, minted coinage, had a vast archive of documents, ran its own courts, and maintained its prisons for those who offended against it. The lines between the company and the British government began to blur. The Regulating Act of 1773 and the India Act of 1774 granted the British government military, financial, and political sway over the territories managed by the EIC. Officials of the company could no longer conduct private trade, and there was far more transparency over accounts and general company correspondence. The British government's intensified focus on India was likely spurred by the loss of its North American colonies in 1783. There was now no question that the EIC was a branch of the British government, but the relationship was not one-directional. In the early 19th century, around 100 members of Parliament in Westminster were also employees of the EIC, and so the tentacles of this trading giant reached to the very heart of political power in Britain. 1858 saw the collapse of the Mughal Empire and the formal closure of the EIC as the British Crown repressed the Sepoy Mutiny, which rebelled against British rule. Sepoys were the Indian soldiers employed by the company, and they protested against their much lower pay compared to British EIC soldiers. At this point, the EIC employed around 45,000 British soldiers and over 230,000 sepoys. Although the sepoys took over important centers like Delhi, their lack of overall command and coordination and the superior resources of the EIC and British government led to their downfall. After the mutiny was quashed in 1858, the British Crown took full possession of EIC territories in India, and so began what is popularly termed the British Raj.